Alright, so this is the final video on making a song completely out of a porno clip, and every sample in this except, like I said, the only thing that's not from the clip was just some white noise. I probably could have made white noise from somewhere else, from one of the files, but I was just slightly lazy. Everything else is completely manipulated sounds from this little video clip. So, like I said, the song's completed. I want to walk you through some of the things that I've done. I added a second breakdown here, and I layered some sounds, and I thought I was going to use more of the moans and voices and speaking in the track, but I ended up just using little snippets and things like that instead, and I think it worked better for the song, kept it more minimal for this experiment here. Let's start off with this part right here. So I initially had this part right here playing. And the context of that by itself, I'll get rid of these layers for now. Was this. So I thought I wanted to strengthen that sound and give it a little something extra. So one of the layers that I added on top was this here. Just a little snappy sound here. And that's just coming from just a sample that I brought the sustain and the decay down on. Then I duplicated this part here. So that's the original, and I layered it with this here, which has a little bit of delay on it. And what this one does is it changes in pitch, so it goes from regular pitch all the way up to I believe like an octave higher or something like that. And I think it just kind of creates a little bit more urgency. So I'll play those together with this here and show you kind of what all of these layers sound like. So what you get is you get these inharmonic type of overtones, and then every so often they become harmonic, and I just like it. I've done this trick before with one of my other tracks, and I thought it had good results. So that's kind of my way of thickening it up and making it sound a little bit more interesting, just with some layers. So that was one of the first things I did here with the song. The next thing was this breakdown here, which I'll go ahead and play. Second breakdown. So basically, this is just a regular part here. And then I layered it. Once again, I duplicated it. But this one here, I messed with some of the macro controls just to kind of get interesting sound, and then I kind of mixed the volumes in different places to create something I thought was a bit more interesting. That was all just kind of done with the macros, and I kept the original so that it wouldn't get too lost in the mix. I layered in just a little bit of background buried underneath, which is just kind of straight audio from the video clip. So this is kind of the most obvious part of probably the whole song. And what I actually did was I'd previously kind of warped these parts to make things that were not rhythmic at all sound a little bit more rhythmic, but I tried not to sync it too much, just kind of nudged things over here and there a little bit. And so I laid that in so that it plays underneath, like so. You'll probably need headphones to hear actually what that's doing. It's just this subtle thing. And here towards the end, I cut up some samples, and basically most of the effect that you're hearing is just this delay, this effect rack here. Pretty much everything's running through this simple delay, auto filter, grain delay, and some EQ. And that's what's creating most of the atmosphere in the song. That along with just a long reverb in some of the tracks. So most of the things that are happening spatially are happening just with this effect here. So I didn't have to mess way too much of putting lots of individual effects on all the tracks. I just kind of liked what it was all doing together for the most part. So I ran a number of things through this delay effect. I don't do that very often, but I thought that it worked nicely for this. So here at the end, so this right here is just like a little cut. Let me see if I can just make a little loop of that. So what I did here, when I was warping things, I also messed with the warp type, and I used texture so I could play with the grain size and the flux. And I can't tell you specifically the whole science behind it, but for the most part, the grain size is kind of a way that it cuts up the samples. So you can almost get it to sound like it has this grainy stutter happening, and I like that. So I found little bits that sounded cool, and I cut those up and I used those as little bits. And I kind of sprinkled these types of sounds throughout the mix. Like for example over here. And here. So that's really the most obvious of the samples that I'm using. Another thing that I did was I layered this track right here. This was just kind of like a background sound that once again I kind of warped it to give it a bit more of a rhythmic sound. But it's very, very quiet in the mix, but I just wanted to add something with a real high frequency that had a little bit of dirt to it, and I could definitely tell the impact that it has on the song for myself. When I pull it out, the song sounds a bit too clean to me. So things like this I think really work. So if you have headphones on, you can hear that high frequency sound, and it's kind of moving around in the pan field a little bit. And things like that, those little details can really add something to the sound. It's one of those things that you unconsciously connect with, but you might not be aware of why. There's nothing really special about this except I use it in certain areas and I drop it out during a couple of the breaks and things like that. But that's just pretty constant. I'm not like doing really much automation or anything with that. And then this here, what I had done is I took a sample that I liked and I recorded it running through delay. Obviously I shifted it from a MIDI part to an audio part. That way I could take the audio part and cut it up and do more interesting things with it. Okay, so basically This was one of the samples that I took and let it run through delay. But that's just a straight delay. What I had originally done with this was I ran it through a filter delay, and it just kind of created these different rhythms that I really like. So I decided to record the way the delay was and then cut up the parts where the delay was. I'll go ahead and play what I got here. I think it adds a lot to the song as well. So it doesn't sound like much like that, but within the song, it sounds really rhythmic. So I'll go ahead and play that for you. That was one of the layers that I really liked, that really helped the song come together to me. On the breakdown, basically what I did was I took an already existing MIDI part and I just simplified it. So I duplicated it, copied it, and then removed some notes so that it played a more simplistic part. And this plays more minimal part, and then this here has even lesser part. And then I believe it's here, yeah. During some parts I add a slight delay, which is right here, and on the other parts I take it off. So it's just adding these little subtle, interesting parts. So it goes from here and then it just simplifies all the way to here. And I turn the volume up during this part because other parts drop off, so this is able to kind of take more attention. And actually it kind of needs to in order for the song to have a balance of frequencies. That's what you'll find is a real important thing when it comes to a mix is you normally can't just take a song and put everything at one volume and have all these different things working and pull something out and expect the song to still hold together the same way. You're going to constantly need to move different parts in the frequency spectrum to take over what is left off so that you continue to have a full range of frequencies. Obviously there's exceptions to the rule, but you'll end up making a much better sounding mix by paying attention to what frequencies you're missing and finding other elements that you can bring in when you pull something else out. I'll kind of play how this is working from here. And then carry through here, and then it simplifies here. Nothing, no big deal. Yeah, then the other thing is just some of these cut parts. Like this here, again, I probably could have turned this to audio and made it a bit easier to cut things up, but I just cut up the MIDI and it still worked out pretty good. You know, little effects. And basically, like this type of thing, I've got the volume coming down on this here, and then on the delay, I've added a bit reduction. And I've automated here. Down here, you see that I just have it turned on during this little section here and this little down sampling here. I've got a little slope. So sometimes I'll run effects like that through the master, and I think it worked for this. I didn't want it too intense, but I wanted to put something gritty in the song just for a little moment. So in the context, it kind of goes like this. Oh, got to turn that on. And a lot of stuff that I'm doing is this last quarter note, I try to drop out all the effects. Like right here, I drop the volume of the effects completely. So during these little breaks and things like that, it sounds cleaner and creates more of an impact when everything jumps back in. This was just another little sample from this drum rack, and I just made a new track for it, so that's just this here. When you play it all together, it just kind of creates an interesting little cut. And I didn't use any crash cymbals or anything like that. What I did was I instead used little breaks in the song to create the impact instead of, like, you know, putting a crash cymbal or drum fills or things like that. Yeah, so there it is. This is the full song made completely from a little porn clip. So what I'll do is I'll post the full mix, make it available for you to download, and I will be adding this song file and everything to my remix walkthrough collection. So I'm going to add that as a bonus to people that have the remix walkthrough, and it'll have all these videos, and it'll have this song file so that you could kind of reverse engineer what was done and some of the source material, that type of thing. So I hope that this process has been kind of fun, entertaining, and it just opens your mind that you can make music out of anything, absolutely anything. Have a great one.